While the Chicago Bulls offense has been fun at times, it has one major flaw that I think is going to hold it back against some of the better teams in the NBA. We'll talk a little bit about that today. Plus, the Atlanta Hawks are emerging as a trade candidate for Jevon Carter, and we're going to preview today's game against the Milwaukee Bucks. All that plus the mailbag right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. I want to start off talking about Billy Donovan, right? And not probably the angle that a lot of people are expecting me to take after the firing of Mike Brown, who Mike Brown is a solid coach in the NBA, right? He's not a great coach, but he is a really good coach in the NBA. And I can understand a lot of Bulls fans who now have seen Mike Brown fired after winning Coach of the Year in 2023 and now are questioning themselves and wondering, why are we headed into the fifth year of Billy Donovan, considering that the record has gotten worse over the last 3 years in a row. And Mike Brown, who after winning Coach of the Year the team's gotten off to a slow start, but the problem is he wasn't the fault at with the Sacramento Kings. And I'm not blaming it on the acquisition of DeMar DeRozan either. I think you have a combination of just trying to fit some things together. And yeah, the team is disappointing right now, but the Sacramento Kings do what a lot of NBA teams do, is that they create their scapegoat, usually the head coach, and they move on from that and hope they're going to bring in a different head coach that's going to help that team go to the next level that they want to get to. I would look out for Monty Williams there, but nonetheless, this is a conversation for NBA Central, not Chicago Bulls Central. But with the Billy Donovan, I specifically said I wasn't going to get into the Billy Donovan versus Mike Brown talk, and naturally my brain started going that direction. You got to course correct sometimes, fellas. Now, one of the things that I want to point out and I want to talk about is one of the flaws with this Bulls offensive system. Now, it's been one that I've kind of talked about a lot, but I haven't got into the details on how much it really affects the Chicago Bulls. So, for example, right, we know that the Bulls are leading the NBA in pace. Well, now I think we're second in pace. I think the Memphis Grizzlies have passed us up in pace. We are taking some of the most three-point shots in the league. We're hitting that around 37, between 37 and 38%, depending on the game, right? And that's really been the thing with the Bulls' identity. Pace, finding three-point shots. Moving the ball around to find those three-point shots, not necessarily moving off the ball. And that's what I want to focus on today, right? When you look at the Chicago Bulls offense last year, which didn't have as many possessions as this team, didn't play with the quick enough pace, and didn't have as athletic and mobile players, that Bulls team averaged almost 30 drives per game. Matter of fact, almost 40 drives per game, right? And when you look at that now, the Chicago Bulls are down to sometimes less than 20 drives per game consistently. And people may say, well, Haize, why are drives so important to offense? What that does, it creates movement. It also collapses the defense, because the defense has to guard the paint, which then opens up more, either be on the mid-ranger. If you have players moving off the ball, it can even open up three-point shots, right? We weren't a three-point shooting team last year. I think now with having the mindset that we have of jacking up more threes, is that can definitely help. And that was one of the things that I did think that, Josh Giddey was going to help with the team, because one thing that Josh Giddey is good at doing is creating shots off being able to manipulate and try to get to the lane, right? Try to penetrate the defense. And while he doesn't have elite speed or anything like that, he doesn't have elite strength, he's able to use his combination of being solid with both those things to be able to create lanes, and we just haven't. To further quantify this, we only have one player on the Chicago Bulls that are averaging double-digit drives per game. And this goes to show again why this player in Coby White is having such a different season as far as how he needs to get his shots. So far this season, Coby White is the only Bulls player that's averaging double-digit drives per game. And that's at 10.6, which is far down from the 15 he averaged per game. Yeah, and I know people may say, well, it's only 5 drives. 5 is a lot. And then when you look at how he finished on drives on top of that, right? On drives, his field goal shooting percentage was 55%, meaning that he is finishing really good with driving. Either that, he also has a really high assist ratio, in that he has a 10% assist ratio, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. When you look at just one specific type of assist, he also passed on 50% of his drives. So even though he shot 50%, right, which is really good, he took about 3 field goal attempts per game on drives, right? On those 10 drives per game. But he hit that at a 55% clip. I'm sorry, those 15 drives per game. Hit that at a 50% clip. Kobe White creatively, right, was really good when he drove to the lane. He just was excellent at it, right? We scored on 55% of opportunities that Kobe White drove on. 55% of his drives, we ended up scoring a basket. And so when you look at that being 14 drives per game for Kobe White last year, and he took 6 shots on those drives on average. He hit his own shots at a 50% clip. At an over 50% clip, and we scored on about over 55% of his drives. That's a huge part of a team and an offense. That's a lot of shots created on drives. Now we also had DeMar DeRozan, who had over 15 drives per game. We scored on 70% of his drives. We ended up scoring on. He hit it at 55% clip. He only passed out of 38% of his drives. You know, it is what it is there. But so when you look at that, also Zach LaVine, only 25 games from Zach LaVine, but Zach LaVine had almost 10 drives per game. He was at 9.7, and we scored on 60% of his drives to the lane. That's half court offense, right? That's what you have to do. You now have this Bulls team that isn't penetrating, that's not driving. We're not taking those attempts consistently, which also means that we're not getting easier attempts near the rim, right? Yes, so we've become a more efficient three-point shooting team, but you have to find a way to meld both of those if you want to be a consistently good offense in the NBA. And so now, while we do have players, we still got Zach LaVine averaging 8 drives per game, Josh Giddey averaging 8.3, Ayo Dosunmu averaging 8.4. You got Kobe averaging 10.6, right? But it's still at the point in the period where we're just not getting enough penetration. That's what she said. But it really is limiting part of the Chicago. And then even worse out of all this, while the Chicago Bulls as a team last year scored on 50% of their drives, we're down to sub 45% that we're scoring on the drive. So even when we do drive, we're not being successful at it, right? It could be because we don't do it enough. It could be because when players are driving to the lane, it's on a desperation thing, on a play breakdown. There's a lot of things that go into this. So this is definitely something that I don't know if I trust Billy Donovan to change it. Billy Donovan typically doesn't change a lot once things start happening in the season. But I do want to look at that, because if the Bulls can start creating more drive opportunities for their players that are clearly telling you they want to drive more, right? And that it helps create easier offense, because on times where, and again, listen, if your 3-point shooting's hot, ride the hot hand. I'm all fine with that. But on nights where you don't have 3-point shooting, or you're facing off against another team that is pretty good 3-point shooting wise, and it's forcing you defensively to not do that, we need to drive the ball more. We need to try to get to the paint and create more opportunities. Is all I'm saying. As a team, we need that. And I don't know. I don't know if the Bulls are going to change. Probably not. I just want to be clear. More than likely, it's not going to change. More than likely, it's not going to change this season. It's just, unfortunately, it's not going to change. But when you look at some of the better offenses in the league, right? The Memphis Grizzlies, which are top 4 offensively, top 4 defensively, they have 60 drives per game. The Oklahoma City Thunder, 58 drives per game. The Portland Trailblazers, 53, which is surprising enough, but that's not a good offense. The Cleveland Cavaliers, 52. The Brooklyn Nets, 52. Miami Heat, 52. Like, the Bulls need to get more. It's just that simple. We need to drive more to the lane. And if we don't, we're going to find ourselves behind the 8 ball yet again. So it's just something to look out for, to see what the Bulls can do, and more structured to the offense as well, right? And this isn't just about helping Kobe. I think it can help Kobe find his rhythm better offensively, but it's about getting easier buckets. Because what do we see from this Bulls team? When the going gets hard, and especially down the fourth quarter of a game, the Bulls don't trust their shooting. And you need to drive to the lane a little bit more. At least that's my thought. Now, we do also have news. This one's coming from Brett Siegel, that the Atlanta Hawks may actually be interested in Jevon Carter, surprisingly enough. Saying this, a quick note about another sneaky team in the East. The Atlanta Hawks are exploring the market now for a low-cost backup option in their backcourt behind Trae Young and Dyson Daniels. With the Hawks interested in adding backcourt depth during the back half of the season, Bulls guard Jevon Carter has popped up in multiple conversations pertaining to Atlanta. Now, here's what you guys know, when I saw this, I smiled ear to ear, because listen, If you can get the Atlanta Hawks or any team to take Jevon Carter off our hands, take him. I know he had a big game, and it was a great game to watch. Take him, right? And it's not going to be a great value there. I mean, you do have to match his $6 million contract, but listen, take him. The Bulls aren't using him consistently. In games like last night or the other night, it's just a flash in the pan. And so, and it's not that I don't think that Jevon Carter can actually help a team. I do think with more structure, he can help a team, right? He just wasn't good here with Chicago. And so if the Atlanta Hawks or any other team really come knocking truly for Jevon Carter, I think you have to move him because he's not part of your process. He's not part of your rotation. He got in because we had 4 players out, and that's what got him in, and Dalen Terry got in foul trouble. Again, where we're at right now, you got to take advantage of assets. If a team wants a player that you're not using often, you get the assets back because that asset is better than letting that player walk away for nothing, at least in my opinion. But you guys can let me know how you feel about that down below. Now, we had news yesterday as well that the Bulls signed Emmanuel Miller to a 2-way deal, and after that, the question was, okay, who are they going to cut? Well, Casey Johnson posted this, that the Bulls have listed Lonzo Ball, Modest Bucelis, and Josh Giddey questionable against the Bucks. Lonzo with an illness, Modest with an illness, and Josh Giddey with his ankle injury. I would assume was also listed as doubtful with his Achilles thing that's going on there. And Jalen Smith is listed as probable. At the end of this, he said, DJ Stewart is listed as not with team. So I think that points to the fact that, DJ Stewart's going to be the one that's removed from his 2-way deal. What does that mean? Where is he going? Whatever. We'll end up seeing. He's actually balling down in the G League as well, averaging almost 20 points per game. But, in adding a forward like Emmanuel Miller, who's also averaging down there in the G League, 16 points per game, 6 rebounds. He's really playing really well down there in the G League. Now, swapping guards for forwards when we need more forwards, even though he's a smaller forward, isn't necessarily bad. Now, as far as the game tonight for the Bucks, the Bulls just, listen, you lost to this Bucks team without Giannis and without Dame. So what do you have to do tonight? You got to come in there and act like you had some pride about yourself. You got to act like you're at home again. It's City Edition night. I got my City Edition gear on, right? You got to come into that game and actually play like a team that gives a damn. Execution, execution, execution. That's where the Bulls really lose a lot of these games, is the lack of execution. Let's hope that that's going to get done. Let's hope so. But all right, let's get into the voicemail bag for today. This one's from 8 Lives.
Hey, it's just 8 Lives, man. I have to come back and speak, man. I guess to kind of respond to my last mailbag and some of the things that I'm starting to hear. I've been hearing you saying earlier, just like the people that don't want to see Zach and Bruce traded. And it's like when I hear you say, when you speak about the people who say don't trade them, it's like saying, because I'm included, you saying that we stuck with this Jerry Reinsberg thing, you putting us all in one group saying we just leaning towards that because we think the Bulls is going to go to the playoffs. Bro, I definitely not worried about even if the Bulls going to the playoffs this year or not. That's not why I'm saying don't trade that. First of all, I'm looking at that trade with him and MJ, like, no, bro. It's like to y'all saying, okay, you put us in that group and saying that we kind of just going the old Jerry Reinsberg way. And what we saying is, I ain't saying we. What I'm saying is when it come down to it, even hearing the other way, it's like people want us to keep losing these trades because we're losing damn near every trade. I ain't trying to say it's based on people's opinion. Like this Giddey trade, bro. Everybody's not happy about the Giddey trade. You got people fighting for Giddey like he really have earned a spot on this team, or I really see something that we should really keep this dude and get rid of Kobe. Like, no, bro, stop playing. I don't care what you say about Giddey game. There's no way you can compare the way Kobe was playing last year compared to Giddey best stuff. I would rather see the Giddey success more better than seeing that Kobe success that we saw last year. I feel like we will make it with that. But this really not about if the Bulls gonna be great, because none of our opinions gonna work. We still gonna be trash. I gotta be real with you. I believe that we already gonna be trash still, but at the end of the day, I just want to stop losing trades, and there's that to Denver. That's like, nah, man. All I see is us making Denver better and us just going down, 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 down. So until somebody can explain to me how going down, down, down gonna get us back up, 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 I'd rather just stay, like you said, in the middle, bro. And if you're telling me that we got a GM who can break the team down and build it back up, but just can't add a couple of pieces somehow after getting rid of DeMar and getting Zoe back, if he can't add a couple of pieces to this team to make us halfway better, bro, it don't even matter then, man. It's like, it's still see red, but at the end of the day, they just making us crazy, bro.
First of all, 8 Lives. That fake forced laugh. On top of that, why do you always call in and sound like you're sneaking on the phone? Does your girl not let you call on the phone? Are you calling from jail? What are you doing? Why? Yeah, Haize, I just, I was always trying to say, that you gotta. Why is that? Talk like that is not how you talk. 8 Lives. You from Chicago? Ain't no way that's how you talk. Get your life together, boy. But no, that's my boy. But my counterpoint to what you're saying is, far as not losing trades, you got to keep in mind it's not about losing or winning. When you look at trades in the semblance of losing or winning a trade based on the talent that you get back, the Bulls are always gonna lose that because the Bulls aren't in position to try to get that. And you got to keep in mind, you have to recognize. I always go to the Boston Celtics as an example of this. Right? After trading KG and Paul Pierce, in which they only got back Jared Wallace, Marshawn Brooks, and Chris Humphries in that deal, right? So if you're looking at just the talent, they lost that deal. They got first-round picks in 2014, 16, and 18 that ended up flipping those picks to turn into what became Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now, it takes some luck to get that done as well. Make no mistake about it. But when you see that a team is aging, you have to make a decision. Just staying in the middle, you're not adding draft picks, right? Because you're not getting really good picks. You're not really having it. Sometimes you have to take a step back to get better. So in saying that, I haven't heard any trades that make us better. It's not about the immediate making us better. It's about the future. And that's what the Bulls are trying to unlock here now. Fair questions in saying, do we trust AK? Do we trust Eversley? But here's the thing that I'll respond to with that. If you don't trust them, then we're going to be in hell either way. You might as well try to make something instead of staying in the middle of the pack and just not even having a chance to move up. And that's what it comes down to with the Bulls as well. Now, the thing is that the Bulls either have to make something to strengthen this or they have to make something to get worse and get more assets back. This is one of the deepest drafts that you're going to see in the last few years. That's why you got to make your move. It's not just about taking these deals just because it's because right now this is the year you want to make your move to try to. And it's not about taking just for Flag or Dylan Harper. It's about the overall talent and how that helps you make your direction more clear. That's what it's about. That's how you have to look at it. It's not about just winning or losing just this trade. It's about what you get back. Because, yeah, Michael Porter Jr. is not as good of a player as Zach LaVine. Make no mistake about that. He's a solid NBA player that can get some stuff done. And I do think his fit as being a forward is cool, right? But if you get that unprotected first back, right? If you get that unprotected first back, that's a huge asset that you have that, yeah, you still got to get it and draft it right, which is what I've said also over the course of this year. But it is still falling in that Reinsdorfian trap. It is. Because saying well, I don't want us to do anything different because we're not getting anything better. Okay, that's still, what does Jerry want to do? Sell you on hope, right? So it's not just about hoping if you make the playoffs. And one could say this, it's foolish to say, oh, I don't see this team making the playoffs, but let's hold on to everything. What? That doesn't make any sense. So, 8 Lives, outside of you having to sneak the call in on us, bro, I think you got to look at the bigger picture. But I love you, man. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Mello.
Yo, what up, Haize? This is Mello. I'm sitting here watching this Bucks game, and a couple of things came to mind. Let me get your opinion. Billy Donovan, bro, what the fuck is he really doing? Like, I'm watching. There's no rhyme or reason or anything to a lot of his rotations. It's like he coaches better when he has to shorten the rotation and guys can't play because he didn't play Modest for the entire first quarter. And then now I'm looking at the Bulls make a run. They cut the lead down to 8. Patrick Williams playing good defense and offense, and he takes them out and puts in Julian Phillips. Like, there's no way for guys to even get any type of cohesiveness on either side of the ball with the way he coaches. But his lineups making no sense whatsoever. And it's just, I'm really like, if we make trades and do all of these things, it's not going to matter who we have as long as this guy's the coach, because he sucks. Like, and one other thing I want to ask you about is the potential trade with Zach going to Denver. With that situation, if the kid, I think his name is Najee, whatever his name is, if that's what's holding up the trade, do you think they won't do the trade? And if that's actually worth it? Because we'll get Michael Porter, and if it means we have to take this kid to be able to get rid of Zach and free up a lot of money, do you think it's a good idea? Just want to get your opinion on it. All right, man. Have a happy holiday. See you later.
What is Billy Donovan doing? I have no idea. Listen, I have no idea. I look at Billy Donovan's coaching. Keep in mind, I'm a guy sitting in his studio that he made in his house that just loves the game of basketball. But it's so often, and I want every Bulls fan to ask themselves this. How many times have you seen something going on with the Bulls, and you sit there and you look at it and you're like, yeah, but if we just ran why didn't we run a simple pick and roll, right? Why didn't we run a simple backdoor screen, right? Why didn't we, the Bulls don't do simple. That's what always confuses me about this. We don't just do simple shit. Like, this isn't even trying to get you to come up, or Billy Donovan to come up with the most complex offensive revolutionary scheme. We just don't do simple basketball shit. And that's what really confuses me on top of the no timeouts, the lineups at times. You ask, what is Billy Donovan doing? And I got the answer to you. I say, I have no fucking idea. I don't know. I have no idea. I wish I did know. I don't. I have no idea. None. Zip, zero, zilch, none. I don't know. I really don't know. And as far as the potential trade with Zeke Naji holding up the deal, here's what I'll say. In the NBA, there's one thing that typically is true. If you're willing to take on bad contracts, you get draft picks and you get assets. Now, if the Bulls aren't willing to take on the bad contract, which means to me that would then point to, are you looking at Michael Porter Jr. as the jewel in this trade? Which confuses me even more. Because if that's the case, like, what are you trying to do here? If you're trying to reset the deck with draft picks, then at that point in time, you take on the bad contract so you can get the draft pick. I don't understand it, but I mean, I also, like I said, I can understand not wanting to take on bad salary if you plan, depending on what your plans are to use that. Are you going after somebody? Is there a target you have in free agency? We'll see, Mello. We'll see, but it's all confusing. This whole franchise is confusing, brother. All right, let's get into the next voicemail, man. This one's from Los.
CEO Haize. What's up, brother? This is Los. Brother Haize, you asked us to weigh in on your latest video if you think that Zach LaVine will still be in the Bulls uniform by the end of the season. And I think he will. The reason being they had all off season to take scraps and bones for him, and they did not. AK said the end of last season, there were deals on the table for certain players, but nothing that made the team better. So I'm thinking, well, he still had that mindset. Typical Bulls, though, now that I said he'll be in a Bulls uniform the rest of the season, watch him get traded next week. Michael Porter Jr. said that the front office told him he's not being shot, but we all know that they're taking calls for him. They may not be making calls, but they're taking calls for him. And Zach has been my favorite player on the team since he arrived, but yes, he has faults to his game, and no, I'm not just blindly in love with his game. For instance, last year, the Bulls had that big campaign push to get, I think, Zach, DeMar Vooch, and Kobe to be all-stars. I didn't vote for any of them. Not one single vote. They didn't deserve it. Very disappointed. This year, though, minus the last game and a handful of games, Zach and Vooch, they have been balling. And yes, they have a few all-star votes. That doesn't mean they'll get in, but I think they're worthy of some votes at least. And as far as Zach not wanting to be traded to Detroit last year, well, who can blame him? I wouldn't either. This year, the Pistons are playing better, but if he doesn't want to get traded to the Pistons or any other team, all he has to do is flunk that physical. I'm just kidding. With this team, he got to laugh to keep from crying. You know that. So I understand if Zach stays. I understand if Zach is traded to another team. The only thing I regret, they only come to New Orleans once a year. And even though they lost their season opener, when they went out the visitors' tunnel, they didn't run to the locker room. They all dapped me up one by one as they went through that tunnel. They did stop and talk to some of the Bulls fans. Zach was right there. He talked to me. I regret not asking them to sign my jersey. And I even took a black marker to the game. Shame on me. I want to thank the hardest working man in podcasting for listening to this voice, man. Go Bulls. See red. Peace, Brother Haize.
Zach LaVine being in a Bulls uniform by the end of the season. I mean, yeah, I do think that there is a chance of that. Like, I do think that there is a chance of that. As much as this trade talk happens and things like that, there's still the most likely chance, and I've said this before, is that no moves get done. That's the most likely scenario in all of this, is that no moves get done. That's part of the history of AK and Eversley, and also part of the value that they have versus the value that the league sees it at. So, we'll see what happens overall there, but I do agree with you that there's a big chance that Zach LaVine is still in the Bulls uniform. And, that is what it is. And, though the saga will get kicked down the road for another year. It is what it is. Now, as far as your experience, I'm glad you got to have that experience with the players. I mean, listen, it's easy to forget things. I know you said you had your mark, you forgot to ask them to sign your jersey. It happens, but you got to have that experience, and that's great. I'm glad you got to have that experience with the players, even during a mad questionable season, my brother. All right, let's get into this next one. This one's from Reginald.
Hey, this is Reginald from Columbus, Georgia. Just want to wish you and yours Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday. There's a lot of questions going on with the Bulls right now, and rightfully so. But one of the main questions that have been going on for like the last really 2 years is whether or not the Bulls should rebuild and when that rebuild should take place. And while I agree the Bulls need to make some roster changes, I mean, that's obvious. I just don't think AK is capable of doing it. And if Billy's still the head coach of the team, I don't see a reason why they should do it there. I don't trust Billy to be able to, hope a young core reach the top peak of their ability. And he had the entirety of his tenure as a Bulls head coach and his time as the OKC head coach to prove that he's not capable of doing it. And as for AK, I mean, we've all seen the problems with this team for the last 3 years. And whether it was the roster design or just finding ways to minimize their weaknesses, they weren't able to do it. I mean, as far as I can tell, the only real change or only real thing he did to try to mediate some of those weaknesses was when he signed Pat Bev at the buyout market. Now, when he signed him, he did that because clearly they needed the help. And to this day, we're still looking at, okay, if Lonzo Ball got hurt again, who's going to be the next man to step up? Kobe White's having a slump. Io's been great, but you're not going to ask him to play 48 minutes. Gibby's okay, but you can't play him in the last 4 minutes of a fourth quarter because you're going to need to stop and you're going to need to, expand the floor offensively. And then, who else you can put it after that? Jevon Carter at the point guard? Hell no. I don't want him even on the court. But, hell, we've still been talking about how the Bulls can't stop a damn pick and roll, and that's been for the last 4 years. So I don't trust AK with the rebuild. I don't trust Billy if he's still here on a team that needs rebuilding. But what's your opinion on what the Bulls should or could do? Thanks.
Not trusting Billy Donovan to develop is exactly why AK brought in the player development department and Peter Patton. It's all I can point to with that. And even when you look at Modest, who recently talked about his shooting and working on it, what does he say? Peter Patton. Io talking about his improved three-point shooter. Who did he talk about with? Peter Patton, right? So a lot of these guys, Kobe White last year with his rise, what did he talk about? Peter Patton, how Peter Patton helped him refine some things. So, yeah, if you're going to trust development, it's not about trusting Billy Donovan at this point. It's about trusting that development team that's been here about a year and a half in Peter Patton and the development squad. That's what it's about. And that's why when I talk about player development, I rarely bring in Billy Donovan. I'm looking at Wes Unseld, Dan Craig, who both have been heads of player development, and then you got the player development department, right? That's your squad that's really going to develop this next crop of players, right? Now, as far as not trusting AK or Billy Donovan, like I said, either way, as long as they're in the place, you got to still try to make your direction or your improvements somewhere. You can't just say, oh, well, because we got Billy Donovan, and a franchise will never look at it that way. A franchise should always be trying to make moves to improve. Us as fans, we can say, well, why are we doing any of this? Billy Donovan's still the coach. But as a franchise, you should always. That's part of the problem with this front office is that they haven't really made moves to improve. It doesn't even seem like they've been interested in it. You got to, at some point, pick a direction. And in the direction, hopefully improvement comes at some point over the course of that process. So that's what we're hoping for. We'll see, Reginald. Last voicemail. This one's from Corn.
What it don't do, King, it's your brother Corn, man. I know I'm late like usual, man, but I just got to get in on it when I get in, man. You know, I'm at work. So let's go ahead, man. Let's talk about this, man. The game, of course, what's on everybody's nerves right now. The game. Let me just keep it all the way 100. Yes, man. That game right there was our season in a nutshell. That's our season right there. The inconsistency. It would never stop with this regime of the team. It would never stop. The makeup of this team is the makeup of this team. The disappointment is value. I understand. I don't care, man. I want that pick, bro. So it is what it is with me when it comes to the L's we take. I'm not saying that we should take it. You know what? I'm missing my words. You know what I'm saying? I'm tired of being around the bush with this shit. Yes. Fucking Tank. What's wrong with Tank? We got to burn this shit down. It's time, in the words of Dot, it is time to watch the party die. It is time. It's fucking time. It's time to watch. I just sat back and just watched Mike Brown get fired. Let me just say that. I'm just going to throw that shit out there. I just sat back and just watched Mike Brown just got fired, who is a way better coach than Billy Bubba Donovan. It is time to burn this shit down. Trade them all. Get rid of them all. I don't give a fuck. And when I mean all, I mean by the vets. I don't mean, and yes, you can add Kobe. I am part of the trade Kobe. I know Haize don't like that. I know a lot of y'all don't like that. Fuck that. I am about that. Get that motherfucker out of here, too, with his inconsistent ass. It is time to watch the party motherfucking die. I'm done with this motherfucking makeup of this team. I'm done. I'm still going to watch. I'm still going to, of course, support my guy Haize. But at the end of the day, it is time to watch the party die.
Why do I feel like Korn was maniacally laughing in his head during all of that? Like, that was one of those calls where I wish it would have been on video because Korn's probably just staring into the camera, like smiling with an evil Kendrick Lamar smile. Like, that's just what they watch the party die. I mean, yeah, to a certain extent you have to. Now, you can blow it up over time, right? Which I think is probably the most likely scenario with this team. But at some point, you have to realize that things aren't working. You have to really do something different, really go down a different direction. And that's what this front office has been hesitant to do. And it's hurt us every step of the way, right? When you look at us moving off players, and something I forgot to mention in 8 Live's voicemail as well, like when you gotta, if you're gonna move on, you gotta move on when the time's right. Unfortunately, this Bulls team has picked the wrong time, and after values have died down for every asset that they moved off of. They got to fix that. And we'll see what happens in the future there. But a lot of people are starting to come along to your mindset as far as burn it all down. I just don't know if AK and Eversley have the balls to do that. And I don't think they have the palate to do. This is a team, like, keep in mind, AK came from the Denver Nuggets that never completely tore things down, even after losing Melo. And so I don't know if they're going to do that. And like I said, it could happen more over time, and we'll see where it gets us, man. But thank you for leaving that voicemail. Thank everybody for the support of the channel. Make sure you guys are following the channel at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, like you heard on today's episode, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.